Soon after filming my splice sampling video, I created the following chords and bassline idea. I liked it, but then the thought came to me of having another producer work on it. What if I found help? Since I've sold productions on Fiverr myself, I thought it would be cool to see what other producers could do with this idea. I picked 3 producers at different budgets of $30, $100, and $300, and I gave each one of them 1 round of feedback to see what they'd come up with. So here's what happened. Our first producer, Chris, seemed to offer a lot for just $30, including unlimited running time and instrument count. Most producers I found at this price point had limits on instruments or production lengths, so Chris definitely seemed like a good choice. The style of the song I had in mind was a modern pop disco fusion, so I suggested the songs Levitating by Dua Lipa, Espresso by Sabrina Carpenter, and Pleasure by Party Pupils as references. Chris had let me know he was interested in working on it, so I placed the order. And soon after, Chris delivered the first version. I immediately caught this summer beachy vibe from it, and I also really liked the bridge section. But I definitely saw some room for improvement. Like, the production sounded quite busy, and I also felt the vocal chop could be more catchy. Also, I wanted the drums and bass to sound more crispy, so I asked if he could make them sound more like espresso. And not much later, Chris then sent me version 2. So Chris was able to somewhat improve the vocal chop as well as removing some of the busyness that was previously happening. But I went into this video with the idea of allowing only 1 revision per producer, so I needed to improve to be able to accurately compare this to the other producers without too much of my own feedback. Next, for our second price tier of $100, I wanted to make sure we also get unlimited running time and instrument count, which is how I found Elsa. I reached out, sent over similar details, and awaited a response. Elsa had some questions, so I confirmed we wanted 3 minutes length and for the song to sound similar to reference songs provided. And after the order, Elsa also wanted to know my favorite song of the 3 references I had shared, so I committed to Levitating by Dua Lipa as the core focus. And soon I received Elsa's first demo. I thought it sounded very cool. Like, the vibe and the atmosphere were great. The top melody being played on the violin sounded intriguing and very unique, but I was curious to see if we could replace the violin, to see if we could get it to sound even better. And I also felt the drums needed to sound a bit more rounded and crispy. So just like with Chris, I suggested we look at Espresso by Sabrina Carpenter as a reference. And then 1 day later, Elsa delivered his second version. So he had slightly improved the result from the first round. I felt the drums sounded more crispy as requested, but he replaced the violin with a viola, which still sounded very similar to the initial violin. Now, I still felt the result sounded very cool and playful, and to keep things fair, I decided to approve this version. Then third and finally, our maximum budget was $300, and I found Haytham, who has over 7 years of experience and an impressive 5-star average based on almost 500 reviews. Just like the others, he offered mix and master, stems, and the project files, so I reached out to him. We had a small discussion to confirm the references and if the files were sufficient for what he needed. Haytham confirmed all was good, so I placed the order. And Haytham then sent me his first draft later in the week. Now, the results seemed very good technically, as the production definitely sounded professional within both the sample and the mixing choices. But I felt the melody had more potential to be catchy and memorable, like I wasn't getting that song stuck in my head feeling yet. And I also felt the arrangement sounded a bit repetitive, so I asked if we could do anything to make that more exciting. And 2 days later, Haytham has sent over a new version. And I felt the melody synth, and the arrangement definitely improved a lot. Like, the track became far more exciting, and especially through this cool Reese bass section he added that served as the build to the second chorus. Now, just like with the other two, I wanted to make sure that my input did not influence the production outcomes too much. So at this point, it was time to approve the result. And with that said, who delivered the best value? For $30, I believe Chris was able to offer a fair value given the price we paid. The first version he delivered was quite busy and slightly hard to follow musically, causing the song to not be as strong as it could be. But after voicing my feedback, Chris was able to implement changes to make the production sound slightly more catchy and much less busy. Combining that with his strong communication, I feel the overall result and value received was a very fair reflection of the cost, maybe even slightly exceeding the cost. Then Alza was our next producer, who came out at $100 and provided us with a more unique take on our idea. I thought the first draft sounded quite good, though I had some thoughts to help improve the track. Alza was able to implement half those suggestions, such as getting the drums to sound more crispy and punchy, but overall the production result was very good and playful given the price point of $100. And finally, our most expensive option was Haytham, who offered a package priced at $300. He was slightly slower with both communication and delivery, but maybe that's a consequence of more experienced producers having more clients. Still, the result he delivered sounded very professional and polished. His initial draft lacked a bit of strength musically and melodically, but Haytham was able to improve both the melody and the arrangement on the second take, which is great. So with that said, if we look at all three, I would say the winner of today is Alza. He was able to provide a very cool and playful result at a price of only $100. I mean, Haytham's result sounded more polished, but to be fair, it was also 3 times as expensive. And I do feel there may have been potential to achieve even more success with his gig, but we only used one feedback round for all 3 producers, so who knows what everyone would have still been able to come up with in following revision rounds. Now, that's it for today's video. Please let me know in the comments below what you're thinking of this series and if we should continue. If you haven't yet, please subscribe to the channel to become part of our community of musicians and music lovers. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.